It is Thursday, June the 2nd. I am John Pollock, joined by Wai Ting on Election Day here in Ontario.
Well, I've already voted, actually.
Did you advance vote?
Advance voted, yeah.
Very smart. I forgot about the election until this morning when I was going through the news and realized, I've got to take my voting registration card, which has been my bookmark for my latest book, and I had to go vote today. So I did.
Okay. Did you have a good time?
I was in and out in I think 3 minutes. So I really
great.
cannot complain about the efficiency of going to vote.
Yeah, not a big lineup. Okay, I mean during the day, I'm sure it helps.
No one. It was just at a school around the corner. So that was it.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for your duty.
Okay.
Of voting.
We'll be back on Friday and have a great. All right. I know everyone wants to hear about the Ontario election that's going on, but we have lots to discuss, and we are not going to be doing it alone. If you want our extended breakdown of Dynamite, you can check out Rewinded Dynamite, which is up here on the YouTube channel, and you can subscribe to Post Wrestling if you're not already. What's wrong with you? And check out the whole review of the show. But one of the thousands and thousands that was at the Kia Forum in Inglewood, California, was our man, well, our other man, I guess. I use that term a little too loosely here. That is trademarked by one Neil Flanagan. But joining us from the British Wrestling Experience and the Grapple Spotlight, Benno, joining us live from California. Hello, Benno.
Good morning, guys. How's it going?
I always feel a little selfish when I'm asking people who are, experiencing an overseas trip, hey, come on and chat with us. But Benno was happy to jump on. We will not keep you too long, as this is your last day in California, correct?
That's right, yeah. So we did Vegas for a week, still recovering from that. We've done the last 3 days. We were in Hollywood for a couple of days, and now we're in Inglewood, and I think we're ready to go home and go to bed. But no, I can't think of a better way to end up the trip than to do this with you guys. And yeah, it's kind of nice to do it at a regular time as well. That's been the strangest thing about this trip. It's 10 a.m. and I'm doing this with you guys. It's usually evening time. I was at the Rampage taping last week. I'm used to watching that at 3:30 in the morning, and I was watching that at 2:30 in the afternoon. My body's all over the place, but I'll get back to normal soon enough.
And I'm assuming, is this your first live experience for AEW shows?
It is, yeah. I was with Steph Chase, who's she's at everything, so she was my guide. So it didn't feel like it was my first time, but yeah, first time going. Got to see 2 Dynamites, a Rampage, and a pay per view, and a lot of AEW Dark tapings. So yeah, it's been a great induction to live AEW.
How would you compare sort of just the live experience? Like, certainly you get a big feel for it just watching on television, but that's something that I always bring up, is that you watch these shows and it's crowds that, to me, really elicit that response at home of people when AEW comes to your market, that you want to go and be part of these crowds. And, you got to be part of 2 of the larger crowds AEW has had in its history over the past couple of nights.
Yeah, it's a strange feeling. It feels like being at an indie. Because it's like I feel like in my life, any promotions I've felt strongly about, and I do, got a strong soft spot in my heart for AEW. Has always been like those lower level, it's been ROH in the past, or Once Upon a Time. People might not believe me, but Progress, and you kind of feel like you're part of this underground, change the business, different type of company. And AEW's got that feeling, except there's thousands and thousands of more people. Like it took a while to get used to the fact, walking around the Mandalay Bay, walking around the casino, and there's people in, AEW t-shirts everywhere, and it's just, it's like it's like that. It's the indies of the mid 2000s, just times 20, times 30. But yeah, I think that makes for a great atmosphere because everyone there's so invested, and it just it feels like a party really to see. And yeah, to me it was just kind of surreal, being there live in the buildings and seeing AEW rather than watching them on the fight stream. So that was cool. There are a couple of things I thought were maybe negatives. I don't know if AEW quite got the merchandise side of things completely down as to like a polished AEW production in these kind of big arenas. But other than that, just lots and lots of positives and just cool to be here.
Do you feel like, these AEW events, because they're still relatively infrequent here, have they taken the place of, for what were many years people's yearly trips to either a WrestleMania or at one point a Wrestle Kingdom?
feels that way. Like I bumped into a couple of people from back home while I was wandering around, and I think as the WWE product continues to be the WWE product, I think an excuse to do a big weekend like this, as well as AEW, I got to see GCW on the Saturday as well. You'd like to see more of that, more of there were a lot of smaller shows over the weekend, but you could do even more of that on a big all-out weekend or a big double or nothing weekend. And I think it can kind of become the big destination weekend for people like us. The fact that this one was in Vegas made it attractive to somebody like me to do the big trip as well. I think that's it. Especially a week like this, where there was a Dynamite, a Rampage, and a pay-per-view all in the Vegas area, and this Dynamite right down the road in California. I don't know if I'd make the whole trip just to that Friday night when we went to see Rampage, and then it was 2 hours of dark afterwards. I did kind of wonder if that was a standalone. I don't think I'd have made the trip for that, to be honest. John Morrison in the main event against Isaiah Cassidy is not really something that would sell for me, but other than that, it worked out.
Before we move to Dynamite, obviously one of the discussions coming out of Double or Nothing was just the length of the show. Did you sense that at all from the crowd? Was there a lag in sort of the middle of the show? How was it a live experience for close to a 5-hour show?
Yeah, I mean, we personally had to take a lot of breaks. Get up, get a drink, go get something to eat. In certain moments, you see a lot of that. It's kind of unfortunate as well. It did feel like anytime there was to be honest, a lot of the women's segments, I don't know if that's a carryover from WWE, but it did seem to be a bit of a streaming line out to the toilets and the concession stands. But I think just in general, people were picking their spots. I think that's the only way you can survive, such a long show. I was keeping tabs on a lot of people back home who were, bear in mind in the UK, I think it was 6 a.m. by the time this thing finished. And lasted, but I think live in the building it's made a little bit easier by the fact that you are there and it can keep you going. And I think the layout of the card really helped this time. I mean, it was definitely too long. I don't think there's any real discussion to be had. There were definitely matches in the middle that could not have been there. But the positive was after those matches in the middle, once we got to, I think it was really Anarchy in the arena, which was the big turning point. It kind of got the crowd going again, and everybody was up for the main event too. So it did work, but it was definitely a marathon rather than a sprint.
Yeah, I'd love to hear when you get a chance to watch Anarchy in the Arena, how that differs from being there live. Like, it just seemed the crowd was amped for the entire 20-plus minutes, but there was so much going on. Yeah. But I don't say that in a bad way either. Like, I think the chaos was part of the charm of that match, and it seemed to be such a high point on the show for most.
Yeah, I think the thing about that match was it was kind of the ideal, as a police car goes past, it was ideal to be there live because you could we were relatively high up just past the press section. We were kind of standing at the back by the time it came to this match, and we got lucky. I think we went to the concessions and we saw Moxley and Bryan and the whole team kind of getting ready for the match, and then we followed it from there. And I think standing in the arena, you could it worked so well because there was 5 lots of action happening at any given time, and you could pick which way you were going to look. You weren't relying on the directors. And I mean, to that point, I do wonder what it was like watching at home. Like Steph made the point, maybe there should be some kind of director's cut from each wrestler's position so that you can catch everything. But I think it was actually a match that maybe intuitively you might think might have been hard to follow live. I think it made it a much better experience, and I was so glad to hear reports that people really enjoyed it on tape as well, because it was definitely the highlight of the show for me.
It was my match of the show. I thought it was tremendous. So let's fast forward to Wednesday night with Dynamite at the Forum, and obviously the major segment was MJF's involvement in the show. So obviously different sections of the arena might differ. So obviously you're going to speak from the people around you. And what was the reaction for MJF coming out, and what were, for lack of a better term, some of the high spots of the promo that were generating the most reaction?
Well, first out, shout out to our good friend Dr. Chris, who helped us sort our tickets for the show. He was a great man, a legend. Yeah, I think he wasn't too well, so he donated his tickets to ourselves. So that's the reason we had such a good spot. We were facing pretty much the entrance way up on the first level, and it's kind of wild because it felt like similar to the pay-per-view, where they kicked off with MJF there, and the anticipation for him coming out there was high. This felt similar, once it got time for his segment, and it was a weird one because it really felt like at least for the first half of the promo, MJF was trying to keep it heelish and trying to keep the fans at bay. But you could kind of feel this whirlwind of fan support coming, and it wasn't even the things he was saying. I think it was in the silent moments. You could just hear ripple effects of the crowd wanting to cheer and wanting to get behind him. And yeah, I think once he got to the points he was, making about, Tony Khan bringing in a lot of ex-WWE guys and paying them so much, I think that was kind of the big turning point that got a lot of people on his side, which again isn't ideal if MJF is going to continue to be a heel going forward. But yeah, by that point, the crowd were pretty much whipped into a frenzy, and it. I've definitely got some questions myself about the logic of doing Russo work shoot type deals on pro wrestling, and about doing this right after him. I suppose I think the focus of this time should probably been on Wardlow or CM Punk rather than MJF. But as far as being there live and being there live for something that felt like a significant moment, I can't remember many crowd reactions like it really. So yeah, something's definitely gonna stick with me.
Can you describe much of the scene perhaps after the cameras went off air for people who might not have seen it on TV?
Yeah, I'm still recovering from I've managed to grab a video and tweet it out. That teaches me for trying to be a newsbreaker on Twitter. I'm still getting copied in people's conversations about Tony Khan and MJF. And
oh no,
yeah, I've muted my entire Twitter app at this point, so no offense to anybody I haven't replied to. But yeah, I managed to capture a bit of video. It was, we obviously at the end when it seemed like MJF got muted on TV, and obviously the famous line about Tony Khan being a mark. At that point, we weren't actually 100% sure we were off air, but yeah, Punk kind of wandered out. MJF was trying to speak into his mic that was cut off, and it felt like they were very much treating it like it was a shoot, like Punk, this locker room leader type. It wasn't any kind of storyline feud thing. Was wandering out trying to talk some sense into MJF, and to be fair, they didn't spend too long with it or make it too dramatic that would make it obvious it was a work. MJF, as soon as he got sight of Punk, just hopped the guardrail and left and took off from there. And yeah, I guess that's what they're going for. I don't know whether that's necessarily a positive for Punk. I don't know. CM Punk, company guy. I don't know. Tony Khan's right hand man. He feels a little bit like the Triple H to Vince McMahon at this point in AEW. That's a careful line. I think you've got to walk, but yeah, I think that's what we were going for.
I think we got the dry run of them at the press conference on Saturday night, and
Definitely.
It's you bring up like posting the video, and I think they're very much relying on that kind of footage getting out there, because you can certainly see like the lengths they are going for the authenticity of this. This is the most discussed segment. This is, they are sacrificing like the viral sharing of this clip by not posting it on any of their social media that I've seen. It's not up on their YouTube. Like, they are relying on this promo that you either saw it on television or you're going to find it through other people that have just, shot it from the stand. So it's kind of that's the lengths that they are going towards this. And I think time will tell of like the value of this. I think it's going to be great for MJF because I think the delivery and the performance was stellar, but I think you certainly bring into question the value that we will see in hindsight that this is for AEW that comes out of this. That was a very pro MJF crowd by the end of that segment. Like, it just seemed like a whole arena that was suddenly this was their guy, and the juxtaposition of MJF being booed coming out, like this was a pro AEW crowd, and by the end totally flipped it on AEW as this kind of repressive promotion towards this guy that we're all backing.
Yeah, I think that's a really dangerous thing to do as well. Like, we're on like 20 years now, I think, of WWE being the heel in all of our minds, and they made themselves that. And how many storylines have we seen like this in WWE, where the wrestlers are rallying against the bad booking or the bad creative or just the bad company in general? I don't think that's a good idea long term. I don't think, MJF being a face, if that is kind of what it ends up being, is a good idea long term either. But I suppose you've got to strike when the iron's hot, and this is by hook or crook, the hottest story in wrestling. It shouldn't be, like I say, Wardlow beating MJF should be the hottest story in wrestling. CM Punk being the new world champion should be the thing we're all talking about. But I suppose while it's happening and while you make it believable, you go with it. I wonder where we are going. What's the match at the end of this? What's the end game for MJF? Do we see more Tony Khan on TV? as cool as that was to be there live last night, and as great as a talking point it's been this weekend, as much fun as it was wandering around Mandalay Bay trying to find MJF the weekend to see if we could spot him around. It's I don't know. I've definitely got question marks about where you're going now.
There we go.
In the city itself, like, I mean, I'm sure you'd go to restaurants and whatnot. Like, did you get much of a sense of how much people knew about the wrestling that was going on in the cities that you were at, or was it more just very kept to the niche that was attending?
It's interesting. Like, you speak to a lot of Uber drivers on trips like this, and you get the Uber drivers who are like, "Oh yeah, I used to watch that in the '90s. I remember Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock," and they don't really know what you're talking about. And then there were other people, like our Uber driver who picked us up last night, had clocked off his shift to go and watch AEW on TV, and then come and given us a ride. Like, certainly around Vegas, there were a lot of advertisements for Double or Nothing, which was good to see. A lot of big billboards around town. People seemed to be aware that it was going on. You see like the odd conversations, from people in the streets and stuff, and a lot of people in wrestling t-shirts and the like. But yeah, a bit of a mix, really. I mean, for me as a Brit, it's kind of been shocking. We've been throwing the TV on in the hotels and just seeing a surprising amount, I think, of advertisement for AEW on TBS. Even if it's only a 10-second bumper, I think. Getting the AEW brand out there and making sure people know it exists is something, it seems like the network are doing. It seems like people are aware of. So, yeah, I think it's a bit of a known commodity, and, that wrestling was in town, and you get a lot of questions about whether it's WWE or not. But, yeah, I think they've done a good job of getting the word out, I think, over this last week.
While we've got you here, so what's been a lot of the feedback that you've sensed for Clash at the Castle coming up in September? And was that something on your radar at all about the idea of going to that show? How do you think that show is shaping up just from, those that you're hearing from?
Clash at the Castle. I mean, I think I think in theory, we all like the idea of WWE coming back to the UK and doing a stadium show. And I think in all our minds, I think we all just imagined we were going to be going to SummerSlam 92. Like we were going to time travel and all get to experience that again. And I think a lot of people I speak to, it's kind of become that realization of, oh, it's modern WWE, and oh, it's going to be pretty much like a Saudi show. That's what it feels like this is going to be. And you add that to the fact that, Cardiff for Clash at the Castle is going to be it's a place where, there's not really many hotels, so there's a lot of money, to be spent for that. It's a hard place to travel to. Most people I speak to aren't going, mainly for those two reasons, and partly a lack of investment in WWE. But it's more the reality of the fact that it's a modern WWE card, and it doesn't even feel like one that's going to be particularly important. So yeah, I'm not feeling a lot of buzz for that. I think if AEW gets swooped in and announced something at Craven Cottage going forward, I think at least the types of fans I speak to will be a lot more hype for that. Clash at the Castle just doesn't really feel like a huge deal, at least within my circles.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting story it has been developing, and I think we're starting to see that grow even more, is that the traveling wrestling fan of, like Benno, I'm sure you were not weighing this weekend versus Money in the Bank to go to Las Vegas. I think it was probably a very clear choice of what you wanted to do. And as this goes on further, like fans that are traveling that maybe had set aside a budget to go to your WrestleMania weekend or another WWE weekend, it's now you kind of, your traveling is going to be dictated by a big AEW weekend, and taking that fan base, or at least a chunk out of it, that are now traveling to AEW shows rather than something that I thought would be a given, that this Wales show would be an automatic sellout. But they priced it very high, and it's going to be a very profitable show for the company. But how much of your traveling audience is kind of scared off by that and are going to wait for something like an AEW that can fill that hole?
Yeah, I always wonder how similar Canada might be to the UK, in that in the UK, I really feel like we don't have a lot of wrestling fans, but I would always say the percentage of wrestling fans we have that are hardcore is very high. That's probably a product of the fact that Monday Night Raw is on at 1 a.m., and if we're going to watch a pay-per-view, you're going to be up till 6 in the morning. There's just something about the fan makeup in this country that is built such that, we're probably, there's a high percentage of our fans who, as was proven historically, would go and support an ROH, or better example, go and support the TNA. TNA's arena shows were always crazy numbers over here, and I just feel like, our market is more poised to, our fans, our more hardcore fans to support an AEW. And I think, that's an opportunity waiting there. That's a great news story. Tony Khan will reveling the fact that if he can come over here and get more buzz than WWE, maybe not draw more people, but do a higher gate, or just get more buzz coming out of the week, and be the big news story. If they do it at a similar time to WWE, I think that's something they shouldn't be afraid of. I think coming over to the UK and taking that market share, I think is something AEW should be focusing on as something really important. Because, like I say, with a much worse product, TNA managed it, and for a while I would have said TNA was the number one wrestling company in the UK, and I think AEW can absolutely be that as well.
Well, Benno, we won't take out any more of your final hours in California. So the floor is yours, though. Where can people go catch all of your fine work? Where I'm sure you will be giving people a whole rundown of this U.S. wrestling excursion.
Oh, thanks, Sean. No, it's been a lot of fun. Great way to end the trip. We're going to head off and maybe get a Popeyes chicken or maybe a Panda Express. I'm going to miss that when I get home. I'm going to go home at least 10 pounds heavier, probably more after all this.
I noticed the Starbucks, but how does it compare to the I know you popped your cherry on this trip.
Oh, it's no Timmy's. Like we had the great Tim Hortons in Belfast actually on the way out here. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back to that. But yeah, not quite the Starbucks is okay, but it's no Tim's. So yeah, been enjoying that. But yeah, our diets haven't been great on this trip, so definitely going to be a month of being careful when I get home. But yeah, for me, obviously I did a couple of updates. I'm going to do one more on the Grapple Patreon as far as this trip goes, and you can check out patreon.com/grapple. Myself and JP will be getting back together for an episode of Spotlight coming up on Monday. And yeah, other than that, obviously, BWE over on Post. Myself and Martin have got the big charity stream coming up as well that I believe you guys will be helping us out with. So yeah, lots going on to look forward to. But yeah, check that all out there. And yeah, follow me on Twitter at BensonRichardE. But yeah, I think it's going to be another day before I turn those notifications back on.
Yes. Don't bog them down with your AEW WWE thoughts. Benno, thanks so much for jumping on with us. Have a safe trip back home, and we'll chat with you soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks very much, Benno.
There he is, the great Benno joining us. So let's go into some other news items going down. The Van Andel Arena in Grand Rapids, Michigan has announced that for August the 6th, I believe the date is, August 5th, Friday, August 5th, there will be a taping of Rampage and Battle of the Belts 3. AEW has not announced when Battle of the Belts 3 would be, but one would assume it would be the next night if it stays in a Saturday night slot. And I guess once again, we'll start this discussion of sort of the role these Battle of the Belts shows plays. I think over the first two shows, you certainly see them as kind of an extra hour of content that will have some fine wrestling, which is sort of like our new label for non-essentials. Fine wrestling. It's good wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say at this point, I think for many people, Battle of the Belts is looking like they are skippable shows for the most part. I mean, unless we're talking about maybe a world title defense, but even then, it's been at a level I think below what you would expect even for a big edition of Dynamite. And you're talking about people breaking their habits and staying in on a Saturday when you've already had 3 hours of professional wrestling, more if you're watching WWE after that. It sometimes is a tough ask. But they have a very big roster, and now they have a lot of championships. I think it would be a great place to serve as, again, your continued development of the ROH divisions, if you still want to call it that, as well as a showcase for maybe some of these trios championships. Maybe a good time to crown a new champion there.
Maybe they should just do a 24-hour stream, all championship matches, like all the belts they have access to.
I mean,
New Japan, Ring of Honor, AEW, FTW, AAA.
It is one of the criticisms, and I would say one of the concerns about the current product. Outside of maybe a very large roster that is not getting enough airtime, a lot of championships, and what is the breaking point, especially when you're introducing so many partnerships with other promotions.
WWE made an announcement on Wednesday that they are partnering with Ric Flair and Tom Rinaldi to develop a 2-hour documentary on Ric Flair featuring never-before-revealed history about the one and only Nature Boy. This comes less than a year after WWE and Ric Flair parted ways last August, and then all of the controversy that followed Ric Flair after the Dark Side of the Ring episode. So I ask you, a 2-hour documentary on Ric Flair. How do you expect a documentary on Ric Flair that will include any of the Dark Side of the Ring stuff?
Absolutely not. The fact that it is WWE's own production, I don't think that
Ric Flair's participating in it,
and Ric Flair's, involvement in it. I mean, I don't think it's WWE's mission at all to do anything but to promote professional wrestling as something on the level of, a very family-friendly, clean sport. Is worthy of attracting all the biggest advertising dollars. And I don't think focusing a 2-hour special on somebody who has, not the cleanest, allegations levied against him recently is going to be the best thing for the company. And for that reason, knowing what still lingers out there to do with this person, it's certainly leaving a bad taste in my mouth. You mentioned a few weeks ago when it was announced that he would be making his in-ring return, whether or not any of these stories would come out. And I thought at the time that, I think there's still going to be a lot of discussion about it surrounding any mention of Ric Flair. But it honestly seems like, especially now with the WWE machine backing him for a big project like this, I don't think mainstream press is going to be asking those sort of questions. I don't think they're even aware. They'll be doing interviews with Ric Flair, I'm sure, ahead of it, and none of that stuff will come out.
I think the legend of Ric Flair will trump any kind of uncomfortable topics regarding it. I will say this: if WWE was announcing if Hulk Hogan was part of one of those A&E specials or doing a similar treatment, could they do a documentary and avoid the whole 2015 story and the tape? Yes, I think they could, and you could just do it. With Ric Flair, I will say that I think you can avoid it, but I think it really does recontextualize sort of the portrayal of Ric Flair and the womanizing and all of that it's almost this cloud that you don't have to address it, but I think it does change the feel of sort of this legend of Ric Flair. And that and I also say that knowing that it is a very small percentage of people that are going to be watching with that kind of critical eye. I think the vast majority are just looking to watch something that celebrates Ric Flair. They are not seeking any kind of journalistic uncoverings. They are just watching this for a feel-good story about a figure of their wrestling fandom. And that is the reality. That is the large percentage of viewers that are seeking this out.
I know it's been a while since we brought up this topic, but I mean, being an F1 fan, I feel like I'm very much in that space where I don't know a lot about the inner workings and the private lives of a lot of the people that we're talking about. And there are probably, many unsavory facts about some of these people that are otherwise very celebrated. And, for many people, Ric Flair simply exists in a space where in hip hop culture, he is a big figure, somebody who just represents extravagance and, to most, maybe the best that professional wrestling has to offer. But if you do get a, bigger, clearer picture of the full scope of who this person was and what he represented, I think if you're a fan, you have to have some answers, or at least you have to have some investigation into everything.
Or to just at least address it. Like, he did put out his statement, and he denied ever, forcing her, the flight attendant Heidi Doyle, to put her hands on him. He did deny that, but again, I'm not looking at a project like this that they are going to go into that space. But regardless, it's noteworthy as well that Ric Flair was very much upset when they took his woo off of the signature that came after the Dark Side episode, and stating he could never, he blamed Nick Khan for that, and that he could never work with Nick Khan again. Vince McMahon he could, but not Nick Khan, which whatever. But there you go. WWE and Ric Flair are back in business together going into that project. Other notes here. We will quickly go through the ratings notes. WWE Raw on Memorial Day on Monday did 1,497,000 viewers, falling 19% and a 0.42 in the 18 to 49 demographic. It would be among their lowest viewerships in the history of Raw that we have data for. That said, the demo was up 3% from last week, and the show it saw a 7% drop in viewership throughout the show, and the same drop amongst the key demo, going up against the NHL games, which are really heating up now. Now you can see 2.8 million viewers, a 0.9 dominating cable, but Raw was number 2. So you can look at like historical lows or near historical lows for Raw, but nonetheless beating everything else outside of the NHL on Monday night. And then NXT on Tuesday, also falling. They did 534,000 viewers, which would be the second lowest viewership for an NXT episode on the USA Network, just ahead of the May 10th episode of a couple of weeks ago, and 0.12, 157,000 viewers in the 18 to 49 demo. Those ratings coming from Brandon Thurston and Showbuzz Daily. They were down in 18 to 49, down in 18 to 34. But that was NXT going into this Saturday show. I was like, In Your House is, I'll even include Stand and Deliver. If you like, we know there's a departure from the takeovers, but even compared to Stand and Deliver, my level of interest in Saturday's show is so low. Like, I don't even imagine I'll be watching this on Saturday, and we have the pay-per-view on Sunday night, so I don't even know if I'll have time to watch this, and I don't feel compelled to have to watch it either.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, I almost forget that it's occurring.
Does it help or hurt being on the same weekend as Hell in a Cell?
In the past, it used to help, and that was because TakeOver could really stand on its own. In many ways, TakeOver was a highlight. And I think there is sense in like maybe, creating a lot of buzz for a particular weekend for a wrestling fan and, shoving everything into that same weekend. But the fact that it's not even in the same city, the fact that it's like, NXT 2.0, which is just a huge downgrade, of course, from what it used to be. I don't think so. I think they should stick to either separate weekends or just doing these TV specials intermittently, because, it's certainly getting lost right now. And we're also talking about a main event that I don't think many people are very interested in Joe Gacy versus Braun Breaker, again, with just the weirdest stipulation of if Braun Breaker gets DQ'd, he loses the championship.
Well, he didn't smash the TV on Tuesday, so he's got his anger under control.
Well, that's another big question. Do we get another? What is he smashing upon entry for this particular match? Braun Breaker. Maybe maybe he'll come out with a dog to signify his father, or Butch. You show up with Butch.
Yes. We'll wrap up with tonight's Impact, which PW Insider is reporting appears to be the swan song for W. Morrissey in Impact. We don't know what his next chapter is going to be, but just my own guess way is that appearance on Dynamite woke up a lot of people to where this guy is at and how he's turned his life around. He looks tremendous and he's big, and you're going to get many chances as a big guy. And I mean, some might be thinking AEW. I could certainly see WWE having a renewed interest in him now, seeing this. I think Impact was great for this guy, and it would not surprise me at all if he's going to either company after this. I think Impact was a great decision for him to go to, because I don't think he would have got this kind of spotlight if he had gone elsewhere.
Very true. Absolutely. Yeah, this is one of those cases where, because of the man's size, because of the way he looks, and because of having already gone through that system, he might, this might be a Drew McIntyre story, or we could see somebody, being kicked out of Eden and then be let back in and maybe having a second career. AEW at this point, of course, it's very possible. They're still bringing people seemingly every single week. But I just, there's always going to be room for a big man. But man, they already have so many other big men.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, Wade. It's an unlimited number.
But listen, like a Keith Lee, I think makes sense, because like he fits very much within that sort of like framework of a fan who sees somebody who never really reached their status and has that indie cred attached to him. Morrissey, even though I thought he did look very good, I just don't think it sparks that same sort of interest in the dream match possibilities that a Samoa Joe does, or that a Keith Lee would. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I don't really rule out anywhere like Japan as a landing spot. I look at WWE as like I really believe that match with Wardlow probably got everyone's attention, and that sort of tells you where Impact is kind of not exactly on everyone's radar. But I'm sure that cameo, for whatever people want to debate on how Morrissey looked in that match with Wardlow. Generally, it was a very positive takeaway that everyone had of Cass, and people that maybe are not following Impact got an update and were like, this guy looks in fantastic shape. So he will be teaming with PCO tonight against Moose and Steve Macklin. So that will be the match that he is featured in. Savannah Evans taking on Mia Yim. We will get Mike Bennett and Matt Taven taking on Heath and Rhino. Matt Raywald against Rich Swann. Kenny King versus Blake Christian. And before the Impact sees Alicia taking on Renee Michelle.
Okay, yes, Drake Wirtz is, Drake, what's his name?
Drake Maverick.
Drake Maverick.
Yes,
Drake Maverick's
definitely very distinct.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Two people.
Yes. But yeah, no, a good looking lineup, I would say.
Yeah, I've been following Impact routinely now, watching it each week. It's a show that I think has been brought up by people in Impact, that it's a very consistently good show, and where does it fit into people's weekly schedule? I think that's the hardest thing, is trying to grab people's attention. That I don't know how many fans are out there that are just swooping in and watching an episode here or there. It's like you're kind of either in or you're out. It's part of your weekly schedule, or it's completely out of your schedule. And that's just the byproduct that we've been talking about for 3 years now, that with WWE and AEW taking up such a big portion of the pie, it's everyone else that are just scrambling for that. Like, you look at like Slammiversary is just a couple of weeks away, and it does not feel like it's on anyone's radar.
I mean, it extends to New Japan as well, and the Best of the Super Juniors Dominion's coming up. I mean, the Best of the Super Juniors final, that's tomorrow?
Friday morning, yes, at Budokan Hall.
I mean, I'm hearing a little bit more about it, but yeah, it's like when you have so much to choose from already, it feels like, wrestling fans only have so much attention.
You need something special that's really going to grab you, and just good wrestling. And it's hard to define. Like, you do need that kind of buzz factor to you.
Shoot, work promos. Okay, that's what is driving interest these days. It's people leaving shows midday, not going up to perform their advertised matches. That's really the only thing that works these days in wrestling.
The key to the next boom period there. Waze just unlocked it.
We got one super chat here before we wrap up, and that comes to us from Rory, who sends $8 Australian. Thank you, Rory, for the support. He says, Benno, man, you chose a great time to go over there. I'm still buzzing. MJF, wow. Antenna. AEW got it out of the park. The execs would be happy. That crowd. He mentions the execs. Of course, we had the mixer yesterday, John.
The big mixer, yes. We will await to hear how the mixer went, how the sides got along with one another. Can you imagine what the execs were like if they were really engaged to the show? How much they must have been like hounding Tony, like, what's going on? What's
yeah, I'd love to know. Yeah, what's the scoop
here? Are you
here?
K-faving us? K-fave?
That was not a work, was it? Are you working us, Tony? Yeah. No, it's of course it will be interesting to hear a lot of the feedback. I mean, some beautiful pictures were taken by somebody that was there, a photographer, and we're seeing some of those results right now. But I mean, the staff were looking great. Look at this black light.
Look at this. These are great photos.
I think this is from the party. But they were taking a lot of really nice looking pictures. So everybody was looking their best, and presumably having a great time.
When are we gonna have the post wrestling mixer? We kind of had a mini one on Monday. I want the full one.
Okay. I mean, hey man, your backyard is open anytime. Maybe my backyard too. Sure, I'm happy. We'll get Benno over here. Take a flight.
You've got a very nice backyard, I will say.
Oh, thank you so much. As do you.
It's not as big as yours. That's what.
Well,
the president of post wrestling.
It's intimate, John.
Yeah,
it's the intimate confines of your backyard versus mine. So
yeah. That ask a stat boy Way about how he's got such a large backyard holding me down. I'm shooting. I'm shooting, brother. This is John William Pollock talking.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
That's it for us, everybody. We are out. I'm going to be out tomorrow. I will not be here, but who will be joining you, Way?
Andrew Thompson _ will be in that seat. He will be joining me to talk about all the week's news and events. And he's working very hard right now on the site, just updating everything up there. So yeah, always a very interesting man to talk to. And we'll find out the latest in the wrestling news in the wrestling world.
Yes. Look out on the site tomorrow. Karen Peterson will have a report on the Best of the Super Juniors final. That will be up on the site. Should be an excellent main event with Hiromu and El Desperado. And then Friday night for all members at postwrestlingcafe.com, Way and I will be live back to our normal start time of 11 Eastern, recapping SmackDown and the live edition of Rampage, which has a very strong lineup on it, including the Young Bucks against the Lucha Brothers. So that's a hell of a match to have on free television. Kind of got just lost in the news on Wednesday night.
Totally, absolutely, and just the idea of seeing the Bucks, pretty much in their hometown. I mean, the crowds are going to be just as insane as I'm sure they were on Wednesday. So yeah, as John mentioned, Rewind to SmackDown / Rampage every single Friday. You get that live if you're a Post Wrestling Cafe patron. You get that in archive if you're a Post Wrestling Cafe patron. It is an exclusive as well. Of course, we also have our latest edition of Rewind Away that's up on the site right now, talking about The Office and Friends and our entire archive of Rewind Away, where we go through all of professional wrestling's most best and worst in its history is all up there in the archive. Also, the return of MCU later next week as WH Park and I start reviewing Ms. Marvel on Disney+.
Wow. And a new edition of Talk that Way and I do sporadically. A new one will be dropping next Tuesday. So again, all of that for members at postwrestlingcafe.com. Always looking at different bonus show ideas. I believe I'll be doing a review of Slammiversary this month as well. So I will be, I've been following Impact, so I will definitely be watching that pay-per-view. So postwrestlingcafe.com is where you can go. And that's going to wrap up your post-daily news show.